Madam President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I begin by saying, Mrs. Rajavi, what an immense personal pleasure and a great privilege it is to be standing here before you this afternoon at this convention. As an Iranian woman, it's also my immense pleasure to be speaking at a convention with so many different Iranian organizations and societies representing all walks of life across the world. This convention belongs above all to all Iranians, that is, all Iranians who seek democratic regime change within Iran. By way of background, I was born in Tehran, but I grew up in London, where I went to university, grad, and law school before embarking on my legal career. But while I've always lived in exile outside of Iran, there's genuinely not a single day that goes by when I don't think of Iran and her people. I've always maintained that Iranians, fortunate enough to have escaped the clutches of the Ayatollahs, not only have an obligation but a responsibility to all those who didn't find themselves as fortunate as we did. In 1979, when the Iranian people took to the streets in their millions, they cried freedom, democracy, human rights, and a respect for fundamental freedoms. 3 decades on, and contrary to what you are led to believe, the Iranian voice within Iran is just as strong and just as loud, and it demands regime change in its totality. Despite indescribable suffering inflicted by a religious dictatorship that's brutality knows no bounds, the Iranian people have never, ever submitted to tyranny or to oppression. Tens of thousands of Iranian men and women who have been hung from the gallows, been executed, imprisoned, and tortured are a testament to the will of the Iranian people and the fact that they will never surrender to the tyranny and the oppression of the Iranian regime, and they demand freedom and democracy. In 2005, ladies and gentlemen, in 2005, I had the immense personal pleasure to visit Iraq and Camp Ashraf as the legal representative and advisor to a European parliamentary delegation that visited the camp. We were tasked with conducting an independent survey within the camp. Our findings are well documented and public, so I don't wish to visit them here. However, what I do want to do is talk to you about what I found at Camp Ashraf, and that is about the Iranian resistance. In particular, I want to talk to you about the women within the Iranian resistance, a matter that had always intrigued me prior to my going to Ashraf. I can tell you that in the days that I was at Camp Ashraf, and in particular when I walked through the gates, the golden gates of Ashraf, I had exactly the same feeling as I do every time I walk through the doors of Auviz to Madame Rajavi's residence. And that feeling, ladies and gentlemen, the feeling that I had at Ashraf and when I visit Auviz is that I'm embraced by the vision of a future Iran. I saw the embodiment of the Iranian people's hopes, dreams, and desires, that is, for democratic and secular regime change in Iran. And I saw firsthand the immense capability of the Iranian opposition movement. Madam Rajavi, I saw your 10-point plan in action for myself. You've always said to us, mitavan va bayad, we can and we must. 3 words. Mrs. Rajavi, those 3 words, 3 powerful words in Persian, and I say powerful because they're 3 words that have become the mantra for 75 million Iranians and all of us in exile. I saw for myself the effectiveness of those words, and I witnessed firsthand the role of the Iranian women within the resistance movement. I saw true democracy in action, and I saw independence of thought and independence of choice. But what was particularly important to me was I saw access to information, a wealth of information, and only with information can you make that choice with your eyes wide open. through your guidance, through your encouragement and through your example, Madam Rajavi, at all levels of the Iranian resistance, women are in leadership positions. But this isn't in any way in confrontation or in rivalry with men. What's important is that it's in cooperation and in harmony with them, in the true meaning of the word equality. The likes of which, I might add, I am yet to see in any boardroom or law firm that I've had, that I've worked in. I should also add that I was touched by the compassion, by the humanity, and by the empathy of all of the women that I met whilst I was at Camp Ashraf. And in particular, I was humbled by their dedication, by their self-sacrifice, and by their love for a nation that's been ravaged by the Ayatollahs. Unfortunately, what Western governments and so-called Iran experts fail to realize, and yet the Iranian regime realizes all too well, is that Ashraf had turned into the aspirations of a nation. This is why the Iranian regime stopped at nothing to attempt to dismantle the camp, but also will stop at nothing in its attempt to make members of the PMOI and the NCRI surrender from their ideals and their goals. However, what the regime has failed to realize is that Ashraf was never just a plot of land in the desert in Iraq. Above all, Ashraf is and was a belief. It's an aspiration. Ashraf is a vision for a future Iran. And it's a vision that I know that together we can realize with Madam Razavi's leadership. An Iran where all Iranians, irrespective of their gender, their religion, their ethnic or linguistic differences, will be treated equally and with respect under the law. A free, a democratic, a secular and a non-nuclear Iran that respects international law and the independence of her neighbors. This convention and the huge presence of Iranians from all over the world is, in my opinion, a clear example of the desire for democratic change by all Iranians. And I know that this goal can be realized. Finally, I want to borrow from your words again, Mrs. Rajavi, when I say that together, all Iranians, those within Iran and those in exile, together, hand in hand, we can achieve democratic regime change in Iran. Mitavan va bayad. Thank you so much.